3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to another episode of The World of Japanese Cinema. And I have an announcement. This is actually probably the last episode of this podcast show.
I'll tell you, I'm sad.
Yeah, I'm sad as well. It's been a great run. But that's not to say this is the end of the world of Japanese cinema as a whole.
Not for our life, just for us.
Yeah, just for this is the last one that's going to be on the Newcastle Student Radio. But if you follow the Instagram, you can get onto the YouTube page where you will see all of the shows we've done, and if we do any future reviews, we'll be posting it onto that probably in the future. And yeah, if you want to get on the Instagram, it's Neal Japanese Cinema, Neal. So stay up to date for all of our future episodes. But for today's show, I thought we would start on a film that, by everything, it symbolizes going out with an absolute bang.
It really does.
Yeah, it is none other than Akira Kurosawa's masterpiece, Seven Samurai, from 1954. What is there to say about this film?
What a movie.
What a film. Oh my god. I saw this film a couple of times, but it's been years and years.
I had never seen it before.
He has never seen it.
My goodness.
My god. What a film. 3.5 hours has never felt shorter before. It is amazing.
Holy moly. Speaking of that, the pacing, it's impeccable.
Yeah.
I like it. So it's split into two halves, and the first half is a little slower, but it's clicking along, and then the second half is just basically non-stop.
Absolutely, definitely. So I've done a few Akira Kurosawa films before, but this is hailed as his most influential, famous, and, to a little surprise, his best. I think all of his films have their own merit, but for this, there's no doubt why people call this his absolute masterpiece. And probably the greatest Japanese film in history, and some people say it's the best film in history.
Yeah, that's a contender for film, not just Japanese film.
Yeah, definitely. So this was made before Kurosawa would do, of course, Ran and Yojimbo, and I believe it was slightly after Rashomon. So in this one, it's to basically get through the plot, we have, if you haven't seen this film already, we have a group of bandits that have been terrorizing this small farming village, and basically they say they're going to raid it once they've harvested the wheat and barley. And so a couple of the villagers listen in, and they all cower in fear of their impending doom. They're all powerless to stop them. They don't know when the bandits are going to raid them, but it's all an impending doom. But two villagers suggest that they go and stand and fight for themselves. And to do this, they need to go and hire some samurai.
Some hungry samurai.
Hungry samurai, because the elder of the village says, yeah, because of course samurai, they are proud warriors. Most of them fight for a lord. They want to get paid well. Their villagers have nothing. Rice is an absolute...
bowl of rice.
A bowl of rice is an absolute equivalent to a pot of gold for them. So it's just, they need to go and find any sort of samurai, hungry samurai that would be willing to work for only a few meals, or samurai who are generally just charitable people. So they go off to this local town. All of them turn them down, except for Kanbei, and who is one of the most influential. We get you get several of the greatest Japanese actors of all time in this. But of course, he is played by none other than Takashi Shimura, who appeared in Ikiru, another masterpiece, and several other Kurosawa greats. He is a war-battered, aging, but a very honourable Ronin, a Ronin is basically a samurai that belongs to no master. And so basically people go to Kanbei to help save this child who is being held hostage by this criminal.
Yeah, that's how he's introduced this way.
Yeah, he gets introduced amazingly, where it's like he shaves his head, disguises himself as a priest. He goes to offer him food in disguise, and when he gets close to the criminal and he falls enough for his disguise, he quickly, just lightning fast, goes in and kills him just before the child can be in any danger. And so basically our cast are amazed at this. He's initially hesitant, but when he realizes, just when they offer him a bowl of rice, and he realizes just how little these villagers have, he decides to be, the honorable one and be the first samurai to join the villagers. But of course, they need 7 of them to stand any chance against the bandits. Yeah. So basically, it involves our youth, who is
Katsuro.
Yeah.
I'm gonna butcher these names. I apologize.
Yes, some of the names are a little long, but basically the youth of our village, who was the young fiery spirit to do the idea. It involves Kanbai and him do this little trick to involve sort of recruit any new samurai, where Kanbei, he basically sits behind an open door, and he invites samurai to come in for a job. But meanwhile, Katsushiro stands by the doorway with a stick, and he has to batter them when they come in, which tests their reflexes basically and their awareness. And yeah, they managed to recruit a new samurai, whereas later on, when they have enough, they need their last and 7th member to come in. And of course, then we're introduced to Kikushio, who is played by none other than Toshiro Mifune. I don't know if you've seen any other Toshiro Mifune films.
I hadn't. No, I've never seen him.
Yeah, he is an absolute giant.
Oh, he's so good.
A legend. He's an absolute chameleon in film, but he's known for playing much more stoic, gruff.
Really?
Yeah, if you've watched Yojimbo, he's basically the Japanese precursor to Clint Eastwood.
Holy moly, because he's almost a goofball in it.
Literally, yeah. Yeah, it shows
off the wall.
Literally, he's known for playing really just stern, gruff, experienced protagonists. Whereas in this,
he's a poser, isn't he?
He's introduced as a drunkard who instantly gets smacked right on the head with the test. And then he unveils this scroll, which he says it shows his inheritance as a great samurai, only for them to realize it says he should actually be 13. Where did you steal this? And then they have a funny scene where he drunkenly tries to chase them and just and he ends up falling down asleep. So, despite Kikuchio's background being uncertain, at this point they decide to take him on. He is definitely, as you say, a goofball. Definitely one of the comedic parts of the film.
Definitely, yeah.
And so the first half basically involves this recruitment, but my personal favorite character, and another great scene where they recruit him. You have the very stoic. He's basically what Toshiro Mifune is in the other films. We have Seiji Miyaguchi as Kyuzo, who is probably the most skilled swordsman and probably the most humble one as well. Yeah. Where we're introduced to him, where you get this brash, drunk man. I don't think he's drunk; he's just an idiot.
So, yeah, just angry, isn't he?
Yeah, he challenges him to a fight with bamboo sticks. He strikes. Kyujo strikes. He says it's a draw. Kyujo says, "No, I won. If this was real sword, I would have killed you." And then he just
challenges. They tried with a real sword.
And so he's like, "Okay, let's try with real steel." And as much as he tries to get him to stop, he ends up taking a swing, instantly chops him with one barely noticeable sort of cut, and that makes him. And he reveals himself as a humble spirit as well when he accepts the recruitment to help the villagers. So the whole first half is basically the villagers preparing themselves, learning to not be cowardly and desperate and just lowly. They learn to have a bit of a fighting spirit, and of the samurai, they get into formation, they get their plans sorted out, but they learn about each other and they bond as well. They learn what it's like in these struggling villagers' lives, where they're not being paid mass amounts to work for a powerful lord and a shogun. They're just humble sort of ronins. Whereas the second half is dedicated to the whole battle scene.
Yeah, it's preparing and getting ready for the bandits' raid.
Yeah,
and it moves along at a clip. I related it to almost like the last Harry Potter movie or book, which was split into 2 movies. Where the first movie is Harry Potter goes camping, and the second movie is the fight. It's
Yeah.
kind of like that. I mean, this is way better, but it's kind of like that, where it's the first half of this
Yeah.
is an entire movie in and of itself. It's like an hour and 45 minutes before the intermission,
Yeah.
and it's all about, like you said, the recruiting aspect of this and getting all seven samurai.
Yeah. So basically, you have Kanbei, you have his old comrade in arms called Shishiroji, I believe, and Gorobe, Heihachi, Kyujo, of course. And then, of course, Mifune ends up joining towards the end. Not towards the end of the... It's halfway through the first act, I believe, where Kikuchiyo comes in.
Yeah.
There's so many standout moments here.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I don't know where to start with this, to be fair. We haven't scratched the surface
Well, no,
yet.
so yeah, that's just the plot. But I mean, the whole thing is just, it's shot incredibly well.
Yeah.
It's like, so the pace of the first half, it's a little slower than the second. But I mean, it's obviously by design, because the second half is basically a fight scene. I mean, what I didn't realize is actually how long the raid lasts for in the second half. But not getting to that yet. It's incredibly well constructed, and this kind of movie, like the amount of characters in this almost needs that 3 hours. And that first hour and a half introduces all of them impeccably. It gives each of them their own spotlight.
Yeah.
It highlights each of their characters, and even in their introductions, it's so good. I forget exactly which samurai it was, but one of them came up for the test. It was the second one that they recruited from that test, where they smacked him when they walk in. All he did was stand there and look at the ground and notice a bunch of footprints and goes, "You jokers!" and then he invites him in. Like, you can tell he's an experienced guy. Like, he knows what's up. And I think that was Shishiroji. I think that may have been him.
Yeah.
He immediately knew what was happening.
Definitely.
And it just shows each of their own experiences, and in the first 30 seconds of each of their appearances, you know kind of what they're about, you know how they are, and it's expertly crafted. And then weaving them all together.
Yeah.
It's bonding for the seven samurai, at least when they get to it. That first half is them bonding, and then the second half is them bonding with the villagers.
Definitely, yeah.
And there's a bit of a harshness between the villagers and the samurai, but
Yeah, definitely. I think the greatest example of that sort of tension, relationship complication is, of course, the you might see it in any other film. This would have just been like a typical romance subplot, but it actually works well to explore the dynamics of samurai, what the outsiders perceive of them. You get Shino, who is a farmer's daughter, who her father just forcefully just
shaves her head,
cuts all of her hair to make her look like a man, so that she's not taken hostage by the by the bandits. And so basically, she unknowingly stumbles upon Katsushiro. You get a little funny scene where he's just going through a bit of inner turmoil through like a flower field. He picks
laying down the flowers.
He picks a few flowers up to sort of tame his mind a bit, and then Shino comes off, and she's been hella flower picking, and he looks at her and he's like, "What are you doing?" And he says, "Are you a boy?" And she just nods her head, and he's like, If you're a boy, then go join the rest of the villagers. You should be drilling, not picking flowers." And he points at her with the flowers he's picked. He looks at them and he's like, "Ugh," just chucks them away. But then eventually he realizes she's a girl that's been disguised for a horrific purpose. But then the two start to. It's a very sort of gentle, soft sort of romance.
You have plenty of time to build on it. So.
Yeah, it's a very gradual sort of romance where the two it's obviously not a relationship with samurai's pride or her as someone just going googly-eyed over some samurai. They have a genuine sort of human bond, I think. But he even gives his rice to her one night, and then at one point, and it's presented as a beautiful scene under the rain. They're both sheltering each other.
It's very romantic.
Yeah, but of course, a true sort of romance cannot exist in this world where there's so many titles and there's so much fear of different groups. Her father finds out about her relationship with Katsushiro, and he just beats her senselessly over the fact that his daughter, a villager, has been with a samurai, because of course there's been throughout a few characters actually say this, that they actually say that farmer girls, they always go for samurai, watch out for that. And it's like, better a samurai than a bandit, and there's this whole thing about farmer girls, they always go googly eyed for samurai, but then the only sort of actual relationship between a samurai and a farmer girl, it's not nothing
genuine.
It's genuine. It's nothing to do with that. So, and I guess Katsushiro, his character, it's I think that's his best sort of, that's his most developed area as a character. But I think before that he was sort of like a young, he's
aspiring samurai.
He's a proud samurai, but he's young,
trying to be.
but young and inexperienced. He's learning to come to terms with the sort of power and position that a samurai title holds. But when he comes to the village, he meets her, and the titles and labels start to fall away as he realizes genuine human sort of desperation and survival and family bonds. It's just, the samurais, they learn, if they're not already humble, they learn to be, in a way. But of course you get characters like Takashi and Takashi Shimura, who plays Kanbei, and you get Kyuzo, who are already just absolutely,
they're grizzled always at this. They're experienced,
aged, and absolutely just they're amazing characters.
In fact, what Kanbei doesn't want to fight anymore. He said that a couple times.
Yeah.
I'm too old to fight this.
Yeah, definitely. But in terms of the actual dynamic, the relationship between farmers and samurai, I think the absolute biggest emotional gut punch of this film is Kikuchiyo. He's been shown to be drunk as hell. He's a complete drunkard. No one takes him seriously. He laughs and jokes whenever he's sober. He tries to make he talks nonsense, despite him being a capable warrior, until eventually they find this dead samurai's equipment, and
in the village.
Yeah.
So they've all gone back to the village at this point, and Kichiro, discovers these spears. I think he discovers a spear that one of the farmers are holding. He says, "Where'd you get this?" And it turns out it's a samurai spear. And so he leads him to his house, where he has a bunch of samurai gear.
Yeah, that's how. So they have this samurai gear stored away, and they thought, we can use this. And Kikuchiyo tries out. He clads himself in all of this samurai armor, the helmets and the breastplate and all the armor. And as they're all him and all the other 6 samurais, they're all looking at it in this hut alone. Then something awakens in Kikuchiyo. Then he has a massive meltdown for some reason on the samurai. He says these villagers. He says farmers, that they're a wretched race. They're a wretched group. The farmers. They're greedy. They hoard everything. They hate outsiders. They're mean. They abuse any sort of power. They store. They leave people hungry because they only care about themselves. They're selfish, greedy, and cruel. I hate farmers. But then he says, but there's one thing I hate more than farmers. Do you know what made the farmers go crazy and violent? Do you know what made them go violent? You wretched samurai. You raid, all of you disgusting samurai. And he points to all of our characters who are shocked right now, and he says, you burn villages, you rape women, you kill men if they don't surrender, you would kidnap children, all of it for your own horrific titles. Damn you to hell. And then he just breaks down crying, and then he just has a total meltdown. And then there's like a long pause of silence until Kanbei finally says, "You're a farmer's son, aren't you?" And then that gut punch just comes. You finally realize why he's an alcoholic, why he's gone through so much inner turmoil. He's just
And up until this point, the samurais aren't presented in any really negative way. It's all been positive. They're the saviors, that people are reaching out to them. There's a little bit of this and that, but mostly they're just on a pedestal. And then this happens, and you go, "Oh, okay, this goes deeper." It's not just these are like the superheroes coming in to help.
Yeah.
They're maybe not the nicest of people.
Yeah, I mean, you do get a couple of little hints, like
Yes.
when they go into the village, when one of our villagers, he approaches a samurai, and then he almost just beats him on the spot, and he says, "How dare you? I'm a samurai, not a beggar. How dare you not offer me money?" And then he says, this guy is just begging on the floor, this farmer, and then he just scoffs at him and then just walks on. They're known to be really proud and just self-absorbed, and of course they're not doing any sort of charity work. So yeah, the presenters are very proud sort of force of Japanese, not military, but Japanese sort of arms,
Pride,
basically.
it's
Symbolism.
Force of nature almost.
Yeah, definitely. There's a whole it's a really complicated sort of relationship.
Yeah, it's gray. It's a lot of gray areas in this, which is good. I mean, it looks at both sides of this whole thing. Bandits are still bandits, and they're always bad. But the heroes and the people that the heroes are protecting are all kind of painted in a gray area.
Yeah.
Like you said, the farmer, and even later on in the movie, the farmers are presented with hiding the things that
It's still right there, sake. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. That has already been yelled at for them having hidden everything, and so there's a bit of that, and there's a bit of cowardice and this and that from the farmers, which is understandable. I mean, they're just they're not there to fight, but it is all presented with a lot of gray areas.
Yeah,
it's balanced well.
Yeah, definitely it is. Yeah, it's all good. But yeah, what is it? Yeah, the villagers again. They're known to. I feel like the actual village actually has a really immersive sort of character, and it sort of again feels a bit like a western in a way.
Totally.
You can see how this thing was adapted.
Oh yeah, I mean this inspired a bunch of westerns. This obviously inspired the Magnificent Seven.
Yeah, things are. Kurosawa himself does this throughout his films, where it's like the open sort of barren landscapes of these worn down villages. They're presented as really barren, but at the same time there's sort of violence churning. But the thing is, in a lot of his other films, it's presented as the town itself is violent. If you walk around, you're bound to get killed. Whereas with this, of course, obviously the villagers, they're the ones that are fearing from the outside of the violence is coming from outside of the village this time. But either way, you still feel that boiling tension with the desolate landscape of the village. And whenever there's a scene indoors, there's a real claustrophobic sort of feel to it. Definitely, people are left in their own sort of worlds, and they're all sort of there's seething with anticipation. It's even at the more humorous and comedic moments, you can tell people are trying to sort of distract themselves from
reality.
The oncoming bloodshed. It's just
I do also, speaking on that, I love how well the humor's balanced in this movie too. It almost takes you along for the ride. There's a scene before the final battle happens where Kanbei and two of the other samurai say, "Hey, all the villagers are really tense. They can't be that tense before a battle." So they walk up to them and crack a joke, and it works. It's funny for the audience watching, and it's funny for the villagers themselves. And as the audience, you're also kind of tense before this final battle is about to happen. The previous night, there had been a woman crying and saying we're all going to die tomorrow, and everyone's freaking out. At this point, we lost a couple characters too, and it's it breaks the tension really well, and that's done throughout the movie, not just this final bit, but it's done really expertly. It's sprinkled. I wouldn't say it's not a comedy, but it's funny. Yeah, there are absolutely funny bits in this movie.
Yeah, it definitely lands, and you can see a real kind of positive. It just lights up the whole sort of film. It's not funny for the sake of it, but there's a scene where
it's humorous in the way that almost life is. It's meant for that.
Yeah, definitely. There's a scene where Kikuchiyo, of course, he just brashly says, "You can tame any horse if you're a good rider," and then he rides it well enough, but then the horse, he rides it behind some grass, and then the horse comes out alone at the end, and then he ends up just running after
running all his butt, trying to
swearing at it, and just
throwing rocks. He's angry at it.
Yeah, and all the villagers are laughing. But of course, Kanbei says, it's good that people they're happy now, but at the same time, these times are usually when you should be paranoid the most. So the happiness can only last so long. But yeah, even when the violence is done, it's bittersweet. Every loss is really felt.
Yeah, that's one thing, is because of the runtime of this movie and how you got introduced to all these characters and have been along for the ride. Each loss you feel, even some of the villagers that you don't know the names of, but you still feel when they
You
die.
feel that overall community spirit for
Yes.
the whole film. So it's just, even if you don't know them personally, it's all just
Each one
know
hurts.
you know the shared emotions of desperation and horror that they've all felt. So it's just just
You're really along for the ride in this movie. You're part of. It feels like you're part of the story. You know, you're in it. You are a villager of sorts. You're relying on these people to help.
definitely, absolutely. But and especially when they all come together with their bamboo spheres.
Yes.
What the fuck?
They're throwing bamboo balls at people.
The bamboo bombs. Let's go. But no, the bamboo spears. They're all in their unions, led by Kanbei.
Yes.
And they're all just they're all in their formations. They've stood up for themselves. They learn how to fight. It's what makes the whole second half really
Yeah.
emotional, where like the bandits are coming as planned, but like every scene is different. Every action scene. Sometimes you have scenes where like there's no violence at all, where they're all just really warily just prepared in standing with their spears drawn. But
The tension's there, though.
That awful tension that creeps through. But at the same time, the moments where, because you get a sense of relief with because they have this massive chart with all the bandits on it.
Yeah.
You do feel more sort of relief when they keep ticking the bandits that they've killed, but at the same time, the further they go down, the more desperate the bandits get, so the more losses that come from our side. And it's like what's going to happen when we get to the last few. It's just who's going to survive. The uncertainty is nail biting.
The tension's held really well, even with those little bits of humor in between. It's really held well.
Yeah, definitely. But the moments where some of the samurai, even when it's, because Kanbei says there's no individual actions, and on the battlefield everyone fights together, and that happens mostly. That happens for most of the time, where like all the villagers and the samurai gang up on these charging
the unit.
The bandits charging on horseback, and they take them down. But you still get some like standalone amazing moments. Most notably, Kyuzo, who goes off.
This is great.
He gets permission to go off and retrieve a musket because the bandits have 3 guns, and he leaves off to
It's like dusk and cloudy.
Yeah, he leaves off on a solo mission to retrieve a musket, and they don't know if he's going to come back alive. And then like you said, there's a lot of
Fog.
they see a figure come out in like this dust cloud, and then it's Kyuzo just coming with the same stoic expression, just with the holding a musket.
Holding the musket, yeah.
He just gives it to Kanbei, and he says, "Killed 2, by the way." And then he just goes and just like
Immediately naps.
and he immediately just like sits down in his like Neil crossed sleep formation and just goes to sleep immediately. And they're all just still standing there at awe.
What
Amazing.
Katsushiro is incredibly enamored by this as well. He runs up to him and just stands there and looks. He's like, whoa, how can I be like you?
If there's one samurai for Kazushiro, I can definitely understand why it's Kyuzo. He's
amazing. Totally. Me too. He made me want to be a samurai.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm not sure if we said this takes place in 1586.
Yeah.
So it's shot. The actual movie's made in 1954, but it takes place in 1586, and it's the first for a lot of things. Like this is the movie that, as we said earlier, inspired a bunch of westerns and this kind of storytelling where it's a group. People need to find some people, gather a group, get together, and then defend against a thing. That inspired the likes of like Star Wars. Inspired, as we said before, westerns and Magnificent Seven and countless other things. This has been regarded as one of the best movies ever made.
Oh, absolutely, definitely has. It's been hailed as #1 by a load of charts, by film critics, of course. Mark Kermode, Roger Ebert, absolutely loved this film. And but if there's anyone who gives this movie 4 stars, I'd like to have a word with them.
I like to talk.
Yeah.
In its opening year, it made 268 million yen,
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair,
Which-
what's the budget again? I forgot.
The budget was, that's a good question, actually.
I imagine it's quite expensive with the amount of set pieces, the orchestra, the massive action
it was
scenes,
shot for a year. It took a whole
Yeah.
year to make.
the massive action scenes, the usage of horses.
The budget was 210 million yen.
Wow.
580,000 US dollars.
wow.
That's wild. 1954, that's insane.
Oh my god, that's definitely a step forward for cinema as a whole. That.
Oh, yeah. But adjusted for inflation, by 1998, it had grossed 13.7 billion yen.
Wow.
196 million? Yeah, 196 million in 2023.
Oh my god.
Well, equivalent to that in 2023.
Wow.
Crazy. It's made a bit of money since.
Oh, I mean, I'm not surprised. I imagine it's been re-released and re-released
Oh, yes.
time and time again.
As
Oh,
it
yeah.
should. I think this is one of those movies that shouldn't be forgotten.
It shouldn't be what?
Should not be forgotten.
Totally not a piece of history. Amazing. Yeah. Going back to another random scene that was quite another like something that lifts the spirits. You have Hayashida, who like, of course, you get the signature flag of the
yes.
Seven Samurai, where he draws like the three villagers, and then he uses it to raise their morale, and he shows off his samurai friends the flag he's made, the massive banner to lead them into battle. And Kikuchiyo says, there's only 6 circles, what about me? And he says, you're so special, I drew you as a triangle.
You're right at
They
the
all
bottom
laugh,
of the circles, yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. But yeah, is there any other moments that kind of stood out?
I know that, like, even in the opening title sequence, it's a little long, but it has very ominous drums in it. I picked that up immediately. And it's, you go, okay, there's something going on. It's, it starts, like I said, really ominously, and you feel like you're about to sit in for something that's important.
Yeah, it has a very distinct usage of sound. I mean, the
Definitely.
soundtrack though for this is just amazing. It's epic. It's or it can be really somber, or it fits the mood. But the usage of sound that's actually made in a few scenes as well, it kind of brings scenes to life. Where it's the villagers to get their first ever samurai before Kanbei, and he's useless. He's a bit decrepit. He just eats their meal because he's hungry, and
I think it's the same guy that he had to grovel in front of earlier. It seemed like the same one.
Yeah, and like these two villagers playing checkers or something, they start to just like slag him off, saying the only samurai we've got is decrepit. What's his deal? And then he starts to get angry, but at the same time, he doesn't really have the bite to go with his bark, and he's like, you better watch your mouth. Meanwhile, while all this is going on, this old priest is just like playing, I forgot what instrument he's, the stringed instrument.
It almost looks like a lute, but it's not.
Yeah, sort of like a Japanese version of like a lute, and it plays a very sort of calming, relaxing, meditative sort of song on his own. He says he's like a blind priest. He doesn't say anything. Meanwhile, while this really kind of cartoony argument is going on between the samurai and these villagers, he just keeps playing. His playing fills out the whole scene.
Yeah, true. I didn't even notice like how important that was. Basically,
until the samurai says, "Stop playing that, you priest," while the villagers are like, "Keep playing, priest. We like that song."
Good. They immediately basically bring that samurai down multiple pegs, it shows how fallible they can be. They're still people, they can be overpowered.
Oh yeah, absolutely. To go through on the impact, but it was Japan's highest grossing movie.
Did it beat Godzilla that year? I know it came out the same year as the first Godzilla movie.
I think it did beat Godzilla. I'm gonna be honest.
Yes, it did, outgrossing Godzilla. Yeah.
I think Godzilla had a lot of success, but at the same time, it was more of its influence than the outright success of the first one. But yeah, still, it was successful, but it didn't beat this.
Yeah. Fair.
Just looking through this a bit more. Pachinko machines based on Seven Samurai. Good to know.
What?
Sold 94,000 units. I mean, I'm not surprised at that.
Yeah.
But yeah, speaking of remakes, of course, you had the Magnificent Seven, the Western film from 1960, made only 6 years after this. John Sturges.
capitalize on it. I don't blame him.
Yeah, John Sturges took the film and adapted it to the Old West, replacing the samurai with gunslingers. And yeah, he basically directly remade a lot of scenes from Seven Samurai. And no, just looking through more, of course, its impact is just felt as well in, of course, Battle Beyond the Stars. You have this. It's basically the adaptation, but in space. And you have the Invincible Six as well, and it's adapted into the Italian sword and sandal film, The Seven Magnificent Gladiators, set in Rome, of course. Yeah,
well, of course. Apparently, they locked themselves in a room for basically 6 weeks or something to write this thing. And they couldn't have any distractions, and they came out with this. I think the Rolling Stones may have written their first few hits doing the same thing. They just got locked in a room for a couple days and said, "Don't leave until you write something good."
Oh, yeah.
So apparently, if you get a bunch of really creative people and lock them in a room for a while, usually good things come out of it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's largely been regarded as what actually created the whole assembling the team trope in movies and other media. Yeah. It's I'm quite surprised, but then again, looking before 1954, I can't really see it. I can't really see any others that have done this before. This sort of focus.
This movie had a lot of firsts that are still used.
Yeah.
It's getting the band back together.
Yeah, just what happened with how did Kurosawa come up with this? I mean, I think he collaborated with other screenwriters.
So his co-screenwriters were Shinobu Hashimoto and Hideo Oguni.
Okay.
Again, I'm probably pronouncing all these wrong, and I apologize. But so he co-wrote with those, but he directed and edited this all by himself. And he also edited this during filming. Throughout the filming process, he would edit while it was going, which I think at that point is fairly unheard of. But to take on a behemoth as this movie, that kind of makes sense.
Wow.
Especially because you can edit in the heat of the moment. You can kind of figure out what works well, and you can reshoot something if you need to. Obviously, they do that nowadays, but this might alleviate the need for reshoots. I don't know, I've never made a movie.
Yeah, I suppose with this being so many firsts, as well as being Kurosawa's first ever samurai film. Maybe it's his first.
This is his first samurai movie?
I just found this out now. His first ever attempt at a samurai movie, and it was arguably his best. I'm like, wow. Sometimes sometimes third time is a charm. First time you don't get it round. This guy's a superhuman, man. But yeah, oh my god. But actually, because it's good that you're saying about how it's it was developed and edited as it went on. It was more of a on the feet kind of process of thinking on your toes.
Yeah.
Because it actually this film actually began as the story of a single samurai. Because when he first set out to make this, he sat down. Of course, it was Hashimoto outlining the day in the life idea about a single samurai. It couldn't have been more different than this film. It says it'd be an intimate portrayal of a warrior who got up in the morning, had his breakfast.
So day in the life of.
Yeah. I went to work at his master's castle, and then, after making a mistake, would be so disgraced he would return home and commit seppuku.
That's fun. That's a fun movie.
Yeah, sounds it. No, I mean that.
I don't know if that would have been as influential.
I mean, I like the idea of that as a first attempt, but I think that's too on the nose. I feel like this one is a much more complex sort of execution.
Totally.
Obviously, suicide. People see it. It's just like it'd be too basic and easy to do a film that ends on that. To actually force them to upfront witness their differences and their impact.
Yeah, they had to come to terms with.
Yeah.
They're facing all these villagers saying that they're not good people.
As well, they don't have any masters to order them or shame them. They have to decide it for themselves, and so their true values and characters come out. It's written so much better, and it looks so much better, while at the same time being so much more daringly complex. It's just
for a movie that's complex, it flows so expertly. Yeah. Like I said, the editing process on this is incredible. It has a lot of wipe cuts where it'll when you're transitioning from one scene to the next, the screen will wipe basically from left to right. It'll do
Yeah.
a wipe, and it'll, like a lot. That happens a lot in Star Wars. I'm pretty sure that's where George Lucas got it from.
Yeah, damn, that's interesting. Cool. But yeah. The thing is, as well, speaking of Kurosawa, the absolute legend, man. He knew that even though it was an on the toes production, he still knew he had it in him because he still knew people were going to love this because, of course, like production companies can absolutely screw you over. They can just kill ideas. They can just like scrap things at the blink of an eye. So as the production process of this film grew longer, the producers grew worried that he was spending too much on the film. So production was actually closed down at least twice.
Whoa.
But instead of arguing, Kurosawa simply left to go fishing, believing that the studio had already invested so much money into the film
way.
they wouldn't simply scrap it. And he was right, of course.
What a mad lad!
Oh, yeah.
All right, you're telling me I'm fired. I'm just gonna fish for a bit.
Yeah,
I'll see you back. I'll see you when I'm rehired.
Yeah, literally, just look at all I've made so far. Just go ahead, scrap it if you must.
Do
Yeah,
what you
and
will.
then
I'm gonna call your bullshit right now.
yeah, oh, amazing. But yeah, there's so many other bits that I could potentially do, but
They completely constructed a set for the village. They didn't do it at the Toho studios as well. This is produced by Toho, which is the same people that did Godzilla. So they had a great year.
they absolutely
They had a
did.
smashing year in '54.
First Godzilla and
And then this bad boy?
yeah. Oh my god, yeah. This alone, these two films alone showed Japan as a force to be reckoned with
Yeah.
culturally. Oh my god, shit was booming as well. Japan has just just built itself back up, of course, after the war. I mean, this is of course reflected in Godzilla, but with these kind of directors and writers, it's shown that definitely a new age was coming for the country.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I'm reading through several sort of past ideas for this film, but at the same time, I feel like I've gone through enough right now. There's so many because of course, any sort of film starts out with different ideas.
Yeah, it builds
different-
upon it. It's cool to see where it comes from.
But yeah,
You can see where the day in the life kind of molded into this.
yeah,
'cause-
in a way, it's sort of the day of life thing was sort of implemented into the villager aspect.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say once they start living in the village, you see kind of their whole process. You see people, not defecting, but being lesser than they should be, and then the samurai will get them into gear. Like there was at one point when those 5 or 6 people
Yeah.
their house, they had to get out of their houses because those weren't going to be able to be protected on the outskirts.
Yeah.
So they all threw their spears down and said, "We're out. If you're not going to defend us, we're not going to defend you." And then what's his and then Kanbei goes, "All right," and he runs over to them and yells at them, and immediately they fall back in line.
He fucking picks a sword
Yeah,
up and
he
they
throws it.
instantly then he just pick the spears back up and run off. Yeah, there's another bit where they have their spear formation, and they see the bandits on the horizon about to charge, and this 2 of them just cower, and one of them abandons his post.
Yes.
And Kanbei says, "What are you doing?" He goes up and he straight up picks up this guy like a toddler and just
Brings him
and then
back
just
in
throws him
spot.
back on his post. He's like, oh.
I think he improvised a lot of his stuff in this movie as well. I think they basically gave him free rein to do a lot. I mean, they wrote some stuff for him, but he definitely did some of this stuff just off the cuff.
Wow.
Guy's an incredible actor. I'd never seen him in anything before this.
Yeah, amazing. So yeah, this was your first time seeing any of these actors, wasn't it?
Yeah, totally. Again, I'm not very adept in the world of Japanese cinema as much as you are.
Hell yeah, this is no better place to start, at least with Kurosawa. But yeah, I had this other thing. Oh my god, it's on the tip of my tongue. I'm just thinking of a particular scene, but the whole 3.5 hours suddenly comes bloody flooding back to my mind.
Yeah,
it's
it's
like,
crazy how quickly that goes. Like we said before, it moves at a clip, a
Yeah.
very well-paced and understandable clip.
yeah, definitely. Now it came back to me right now. It's of course with the comedy, most of the genuine humor comes from of course the inexperience of the villagers with the actual hard, firm fighting spirit of the samurai is when one of the you've already seen a couple of people die. You've seen at least you've seen the bandits get killed in action. You've seen a bunch of fighting has already happened, and this one villager, I don't know what happens. I think he gets cut a bit by a sword, and then he walks back, and he just collapses, and he says, "Oh, I'm dying right now. Oh, my son, where is my son? Oh, I'm dying." And one of the samurai says, "You're not dying, you idiot. Get back up. And why are you calling your son like he's your wife?" And then like he immediately just like jets. He just sits back up. He's like, "What did you say?" And I'm like,
"Oh, I'm not dead."
It literally the most healthy way ever. He's like it's like the Undertaker. He's like, "What?"
I love the character Yohei. I think that's how you pronounce his name, which is basically the entire movie. He's a permanently terrified kid.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Sometimes he smiles, but he's still terrified.
Yeah, literally. He has like the most terrified eyes ever. He's like
he must have been stuck that way for months after filming.
Yes, when I think the funniest scene is when Yoshio is about to do his like stick test on any samurai who come into the shop to do Kanbei's test. And literally every single time, Bakuzen just like he just hides behind.
Yeah, he goes and hides behind like a little stick thing.
He hides behind the wall, and he does the exact same, just scared expression every time. It's
slowly crouches and just looks terrified.
Yeah. Oh, amazing.
That's this physical comedy in this a lot as well.
Yeah, definitely. Even when he's not entertaining the villagers, you get a few funny scenes where it's Kikuchiyo just running after his horse, trying to tame it, but he fails awfully. Yeah. There's another sort of, given his backstory as a farmer boy who got raided by samurai, it's another kind of moment. His character's definitely juxtaposed a lot between his humour, but you can see that's sort of like a coping mechanism from his traumatic background. But there's one moment where he has to look after this woman, her father, and this woman's child. And there's a scene where he, of course, they hide in the shelter. The bandits cross it and set it on fire. Then he goes and only the baby makes it, and he breaks down crying, looking at this child, and the samurai are like, "What are you doing? Get back to your formation." And he's like, "This child, it's me. This is what happened to me." And it's just
the camera rests on him sitting there crying with his baby with a burning building behind him.
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit.
Yeah. It's definitely an emotional gut punch.
It's crazy how this movie goes between such, like you said, emotional gut punches, and also just like it's like a western. You know, it's again just very well done. What can I say? You know, it balances so well all of these different themes and experiences. Definitely. And this movie is an experience.
Oh, it is. Oh my goodness.
We had to watch it in 2 showings.
It was perfect as well because like the bloody interlude happened right as we were about to call it. We were like, it's a bit late. Shall we stop it? And then literally, bam! The Japanese character for interlude came up, and I'm like, oh, perfect. We'll just cut it here. But yeah, amazing. But there's so many more Kurosawa films. You got to watch, bro.
Oh yeah, I imagine. I mean, so what do you know? What number film this was for him? Like how far into his filmography is this?
Actually, that's an interesting idea. He started making films in like the early. It was like the mid 40s, I think. He made a few modern day dramas, but but this was, of course, his first historic film. Yeah, well, he nailed it. Hell yeah! It was. Oh lordy lord! No. There's quite a few. Was he prolific? It's at least his 15th. Wow. To be fair, he's made a few sort of short films before as well. Yeah. But actually, no. I think this was his first samurai film. Yeah, But of course, Toshiro Mifune. There's a film called Rashomon. Don't know if you've seen that. It's a film. Maybe it's set a bit after the samurai times, but it's definitely more of a historical set film where it's the first ever film to question the audience's view, to question the audience as to what's real and what's not, because you have this criminal who's being sentenced but at the same time you get different characters' viewpoints when they tell their story.
Trials, I guess.
Yeah, and you see their own story, and so it's up to you to guess
That's cool.
who's telling the truth. But the criminal was played by none other than Toshiro Mifune, and it's the only film where he actually has a similar sort of cartoonish energy as he does in this film. He's just maniac. He's laughing, but he's just making fun of people. But at the same time, he's presented as a wretched murderer.
Yeah.
At the same time,
So he'd acted in some Kurosawa movies before this.
I think that Rashomon was his first one. I think Seven Samurai's his second, but I'll have to go into more exploration.
Well, yeah,
But,
if you're an aspiring filmmaker, keep going, because your 15th movie might be your best one.
Fuck yeah. Bit of elbow grease in it, yeah.
Yeah, keep on trucking.
Yeah, because the thing is, I think, because Toshiro Mifune has been the absolute star in any other Kurosawa movie.
He's the main character on the poster, I think. In this.
Yeah, he is. He's the figurehead where he's in his armor.
Yes.
But I think this is the one film where he's obviously a standout character, but there are so many protagonists in this film.
Yeah.
So many characters have their own spotlight and focus, but it never detracts. It never feels like it's leaning too heavily towards a single one, and yet
they're all main characters.
Yeah, you can't say any character has more power than the other in terms of their presence in the film.
I'd be interested to see the minute breakdown of each character's screen time.
Oh,
because it's probably not far off each other.
Yeah.
They seem, like you said, very they're all kind of balanced, and one doesn't really detract from the other. It's all like they each get their time in the spotlight. And I think the overall spotlight is basically like the village. Like it's the camaraderie between everybody.
Yeah.
And that's why if you see a death there, you feel it, because you're part of this whole thing. You're part of this village. You're part of this journey that you've gone on. You've recruited these samurai.
Yeah, absolutely. You've witnessed the whole journey. The snappy, quirky dialogue, the nice, melancholic, slice of life, almost sort of pacing. And so when things really ramp up, and you see, the tension goes up, the boiling pot erupts, and the violence finally comes. It all comes as shocking to you as it does to them. It's just to see these people's lives, who you've grown to love, get shattered apart. It's just, you really feel it. Even though you don't know much about the villains, you know all you need to know.
Pretty much.
They're only there to just pillage, steal, rape, and murder, and so it's just
not nice.
Yeah, definitely. So
wouldn't have a beer with those guys.
No, I wouldn't have a little glass of sake. No,
I don't think so.
No, definitely not. But with that, do you have any more thoughts on this film?
Watch it. I think it's this one legitimately might be the best movie ever.
Oh yeah, definitely. It is a contender.
It's up there. It's top 10, easy. Top 5.
I remember back when I reviewed Ran. It was an adaptation of Shakespeare's King Lear. It was a samurai film made in color.
Cool.
I said that was my favorite film of all time back when I reviewed it about a couple of months ago on this show. But after watching Seven Samurai, Ran is easily the better looking film. But oh man, no, I cannot. I'm not saying Seven Samurai is better, but I cannot say Ran is better at the same time. No, this has reawoken me to this film's greatness now. I've acknowledged it as one of the greats before. I'm like, yeah, I've seen it. It is great. It deserves its flowers. But no, actually properly sitting down, watching it all the way through, I cannot deny this film is just... It's one of the rare things where 10 on 10 doesn't feel enough.
Yeah.
It is one of the few experiences that is genuinely unforgettable in any film you watch.
Yeah, I'm like I said earlier, this is the first time I had seen this. Thank you for letting this happen.
No problem, bro. Thanks for being on the
incredible.
show. Yeah, man. With that, I think that's all we have to say on Seven Samurai. Absolutely give this film a watch. You absolutely must. Thus concludes, I'd say, the world of Japanese cinema, at least, in terms of live streaming from the Newcastle Student Radio. But yeah, we'll probably be back on the YouTube channel sometime in the future.
Yeah, I'm down to do some more reviews.
Yeah, get on the Instagram, give it a follow, give the YouTube channel a subscribe, and that's unfortunately we don't have a beer with us this time.
We
had to run here to the studio.
Plus, I'm exhausted.
Plus, I have work in a bit, so that wouldn't be a great idea.
That's true. Well, maybe it'd be a great idea actually. You just have to deal with some people.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, bro. This is me and Adam, and this is the World of Japanese Cinema. And thank you all for tuning in on
signing off.
the past few months. It's been a great ride with y'all. And yeah, bro. With that, have the best day and keep watching Japanese films.
Sayonara.
Sayonara. Hell yeah, bitch. I don't know why I just did that, but it just sounded cool.
What's so cool?